Have you ever wondered why I like this, I'm scared, I'm sad. But for her, emotion is a compass, a language the soul uses to communicate with the world. When she enters a space, she can sense whether the energy is pure or toxic. When someone lies, her chest tightens. When someone speaks with sincerity, she feels warmth in her heart. She perceives what others don't say, because energy cannot pretend. A friend once told me about a woman like that. During a company meeting, while everyone was debating, she simply looked around and softly said, "Something feels off." No one understood, but a few weeks later, that project collapsed because of dishonesty within the team. "That's when I realized," he said, "she wasn't judging, she was feeling." Women like that seem to have an invisible radar, not to control, but to understand. Modern society often glorifies intellect, yet Jung once said, "The heart has its own intelligence which the mind cannot comprehend." Spiritually attuned, women are living proof. They read the world through sensation, not data. When entering a relationship, they don't need promises. They feel whether the energy is real or fake. When meeting someone, they sense if that person is at peace or running from themselves. When a loved one is sad but silent, she still feels it, in the air, in the heartbeat, in the eyes that avoid hers. But every gift has a price. The price of sensitivity is solitude. Because when you feel too much, you tire easily. This woman doesn't just hear what others say, she hears what they cannot admit. She sees smiles, but feels hidden pain. She hears compliments, but detects envy behind them. She stands among crowds, yet hears her soul whisper, "I don't belong here." That's why she often needs long moments of silence, not out of arrogance, but to cleanse her energy. To return to her pure state, where no one speaks, no one fakes, and only the truth of the soul remains. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This woman has learned to bring light into those sensations. She knows that sensitivity is not a burden, but a bridge to connect with the deeper layers of existence, where everything is communicated through energy, not words. Such women often carry the memory of the soul. Flowing through their veins is the survival instinct of their ancestors, women who had to feel in order to survive. Before there were maps, they sensed direction. Before there were phones, they felt when loved ones were in danger far away. Before there was language, they heard the voice of the earth. These inheritances never disappeared. They sleep in the DNA and awaken when a woman learns to listen again. Today's world often confuses her. When she says, "I can feel this person's energy isn't right," people tell her, "You're too sensitive." When she asks for silence, they call her cold. But in truth, she's simply hearing what others can't, the language of energy. She knows that everything carries a frequency, words, eyes, even silence, and she chooses to live by that frequency rather than the noise of the world. Yet, sensitivity only becomes power when she learns to master it. Otherwise, she can easily be swept away by the energy of others, like a white cloth absorbing every color. She must learn to stand still within herself, so she isn't shaken by external emotion. Only when she's still enough can she hear the deepest sound, the voice of her soul. And that is where her silent healing power lies. Many don't understand why they feel calm around her. It's not because she tries to comfort them, but because her energy is steady and pure. That peace radiates like an invisible wave, lowering people's defenses and bringing them closer to themselves. However, reaching that point wasn't easy. She had to move through the stages of believing she was too weak, too emotional, too different. But then she realized, sensitivity is not weakness. It's the gateway to awakening. When she stopped trying to shut off her feelings and began to listen instead, she discovered that her soul had been speaking through each beat of emotion. And one day, she looked around and realized that everything was speaking to her. The wind, the scent of flowers, the light, even silence itself. Each was a subtle message, and she understood that meaning doesn't need to be found elsewhere. Life has always been meaningful. You just need stillness to feel it. That's when she understood. Energy is the language of the soul. Not everyone speaks it, but anyone can hear it if they learn to be silent. And if you're listening now, perhaps your soul already knows that language. Maybe you've been called too sensitive, too emotional, or too intense. But remember, that's not a flaw, it's a sign that you carry the first gift of an awakened soul, the gift of energetic sensitivity. Cherish this gift, even when it makes you tired, different, or lonely. Because only when you understand energy do you truly understand people. And when you listen with your soul, you don't just live, you awaken. That is the beginning of the spiritual journey. The moment you realize that your sensitivity is not a burden, but the sacred language of your soul. her window, where sunlight streamed through like a thin current of water. "That moment," she said, "I realized that light can still pass through the crack." Her photo series, Through the Broken Glass, was later exhibited around the world. But the true miracle was not fame. It was that she had turned loss into art, pain into light. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." It is in darkness that we are forced to see what we've denied, to face the fragments we thought could never fit together again. And when this woman dares to sit with her pain, she realizes a profound truth. Darkness does not come to destroy her, it comes to show her who she really is. Not as a victim, but as a soul being reborn. In Greek mythology, Persephone is the goddess of spring, but also the queen of the underworld. The myth tells that she was taken by Hades into the dark realm, and only after she tasted the pomegranate, symbol of life and death intertwined, was she allowed to return to the surface. But since then, every year she must return to the underworld once more, so that the earth may bloom again. Persephone's story is not just about life and death, it's about rebirth through darkness. The woman with high spiritual energy is like that. She no longer sees pain as an enemy, but as a guide. When loss comes, she doesn't rush to ask, "Why me?" but quietly asks, "What is this trying to teach me?" When her heart breaks, she doesn't build higher walls. She learns to love deeper, with more awareness. She understands that every wound doesn't come to weaken her, but to teach her to see through the eyes of the soul, where suffering is not an ending, but a doorway to meaning. This woman resembles an ancient goldsmith standing before a furnace where raw metal is melted down. Each pane is a wave of fire, burning away the old, separating impurities, revealing what's pure. When gold appears, it looks nothing like the rough metal it once was. And so it is with her soul. After passing through the fire, it becomes brighter, steadier, more real. Yet the journey is not easy. There are days when she feels like she's falling into an endless abyss, unheard by anyone. Nights where she sits in the dark, feeling as though every belief she once held is being stripped away. But in those moments when there's nothing left to hold on to, she begins to sense a profound shift, a slow metamorphosis where she learns to see more clearly, understand herself better, and emerge from pain with a renewed awareness of life. As Jung wrote, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. And sometimes, that order only reveals itself after everything falls apart." A woman who has walked through darkness will never be the same again. Her light no longer shines to attract attention, but to warm hearts. She doesn't need to prove herself, because she knows she's been forged in the fire of experience. She understands that true strength doesn't come from being unhurt, but from being hurt and still choosing to love. When she looks back on the moments that broke her, she no longer sees punishment, she sees grace. Every wound has become a doorway, leading her closer to her truest self. And each time she crosses one, she becomes softer, deeper, and paradoxically, more radiant. She begins to understand that light is not something we find, it's something born from the fragments we once feared to face. The Bible says, "He gives beauty for ashes." Perhaps that is the miracle of the feminine soul, its ability to turn ruins into beauty, tears into prayers, scars into light. Because within the deepest structure of woman lies the energy of rebirth. She gives life, not only through her body, but through her spirit. If you've ever lost something so deeply that your world collapsed, yet still chose to stand up, to believe in love, to keep your heart soft, know that you are walking the path of chosen souls. For only the brave dare to let themselves melt, so they may be reborn in purer form. Pain is the furnace of the soul, and the woman with true spiritual power does not run from the fire. She walks into it, heart open, to turn ashes into gold. Number 3. Loneliness as a sacred ritual. After walking through the depths of pain, the woman with high spiritual energy begins to understand. Healing doesn't come from finding someone to fill the emptiness, but from daring to stay with it. Gradually, she learns to remain still after the storm, where loneliness is no longer an enemy, but a sacred ritual through which the soul is reborn. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." She realizes that true loneliness is not when there's no one beside you. It's when you can't express what your soul longs for. When everything external fades, the noise, the relationships, the expectations, even the attention of others, what remains is her naked being, without roles or masks. Many fear this because in silence you can no longer hide. But she knows it is within solitude that consciousness is reordered and the soul begins to speak in its true voice. The modern world has forgotten the sacredness of solitude. Every silence is filled with notifications, messages, and scrolling. We are taught to stay connected, as if quiet means abandonment. But to the woman with high spiritual intelligence, silence is sacred. It isn't emptiness, it's the laboratory of the soul, where the scattered pieces of the psyche settle and reconnect into wholeness. Ideas and emotions in ways impossible under constant stimulation. Jung observed the same. Only when a person withdraws into their inner cave can they truly converse with the unconscious, the deepest and most authentic part of the psyche. The spiritually attuned woman feels this instinctively. She doesn't fear withdrawal, knowing it's part of the cycle of renewal. After giving too much, love, empathy, energy, she must retreat to cleanse herself. For her, solitude isn't withdrawal from the world, it's returning to her source. She listens to her heartbeats, watches thoughts come and go, and realizes nothing needs to be controlled, only seen. Outsiders might label her cold or distant, but she's merely returning to her origin. She knows that without protecting her stillness, she'll lose herself. In solitude, she learns not to be governed by others' voices. She doesn't need to react to prove her worth. She doesn't need approval to exist. Silence shows her the boundary between who I am and who they think I am. This solitude isn't a phase, it's a ritual. Each time she enters silence, she performs an inner pilgrimage. She lets social identities dissolve, daughter, lover, mother, friend, until only the soul remains, without titles, without expectations. She faces the fears she once avoided, fear of being forgotten, of meaninglessness, of not being enough. But instead of banishing them, she lets them speak, until they dissolve. The longer she sits with them, the less power they hold. She no longer seeks to be understood, because she knows true understanding is not through language, but frequency. She connects with souls who also honor silence. When they meet, few words are needed, yet they feel at home. It's a rare resonance found only between those who've walked through darkness and learned to rest in themselves. To her, loneliness is no longer an emptiness, but a space where light seeps in. When she sits in silence, she feels life at its most subtle level: heartbeat, breath, wind, even the pause between thoughts. In those moments, she realizes she was never separate. Stillness doesn't isolate her from life, it unites her with it. Many of history's most luminous souls lived through sacred solitude. Jesus withdrew into the desert for 40 days. Buddha meditated beneath the Bodhi tree. Jung secluded himself in his Jungian tower to listen to the unconscious. They knew that to touch the divine, one must step away from noise, not to escape, but to hear what can't be heard amidst chaos. The modern spiritual woman continues that ritual, even if she lives in the city. Maybe it's a few hours away from her phone, a morning without talking to anyone, or a weekend spent quietly with tea and sunlight. But to her, those moments are sacred, because it's in the moments when she does nothing that she truly is. Remember, loneliness doesn't come to separate you from life. It comes to connect you more deeply with yourself. In silence, the soul doesn't sleep. It prepares for the next rebirth. If you've ever lived through days so silent that all you could hear was your heartbeat, yet somehow, deep inside, you knew that silence was shaping a stronger version of you, leave one word in the comments. Still, so I'll know you too are walking this sacred path of souls learning to grow through solitude. Number 4, the healing power of presence. The moment a woman learns to walk through darkness and rest in silence, something miraculous happens. Her energy changes. No longer swinging between extremes of pain and light, she becomes steady, like a calm lake reflecting the sky. That steadiness is the deepest healing energy a human soul can radiate. Carl Jung called this therapeutic presence, the healing quality that arises not from techniques, but from being in harmony between consciousness and the unconscious, between mind and soul. Jung believed that a true healer doesn't try to fix others. He wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Today's world is full of healers, those who teach meditation, self-love, detachment. But healing doesn't reside in technique, it resides in energy quality. A truly peaceful heart heals simply by beating. A mind that no longer fights spreads silence like fragrance. This woman doesn't say, "Be calm." She is calm. She doesn't tell others to love themselves. She embodies love. That's why her presence is a living lesson for all who seek the sacred outside themselves. In a world where everyone wants to inspire, she chooses to hold space. When someone speaks of pain, she doesn't rush to comfort. She listens with her heart. When someone shares a dream, she doesn't interrupt. She listens with warm eyes. When someone rages, she doesn't withdraw. She stays grounded. And that simple act of staying is what walked through darkness and made peace with solitude. So now she isn't afraid to see those things in others. She sees wounds but doesn't react. She hears anger but doesn't judge. That lack of resistance is the true healing energy. People leave her presence without knowing why they feel lighter, but their souls know they've been touched by a rare frequency, the frequency of pure presence. Jung once wrote, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." She knows her shadows, so she's not afraid of anyone else's. She doesn't tell others to be positive, because she knows light isn't born from denial, but from facing darkness with love. Those who've met her often say the same thing. "I don't know what she did, but being near her, I felt myself again." And that's what Jung called individuation contagion, the ripple effect of inner wholeness. One person who has met their true self unconsciously invites others to do the same. She doesn't talk much about spirituality, she lives it. She doesn't preach peace, she is peace. And that's why her energy heals more than any advice ever could. If you've ever met someone who made you feel calm for no reason, perhaps you've met such a soul. They don't bring light, they are light. simple, humble, and eternal. And if you're becoming such a person, remember, healing doesn't begin when you help others, but when you have the courage to stay with yourself until your very energy becomes a silent prayer. If this part made you feel something, a stillness, a vibration, or just a moment of peace in your heart, leave a like on this video. It's not just support for us, but a way to spread the frequency of presence to other souls who need to be touched. Because sometimes, a small act is enough to remind the world, peace still exists, even amidst the noise. Number 5. When life becomes a meaningful flow. After all the inner lessons from sensing energy, walking through pain, embracing solitude, to embodying presence, the woman with high spiritual energy enters another phase, where she no longer does spirituality, she becomes it. This is the state Jung called living in unity between inner and outer worlds, where life is no longer a random series of events, but a synchronized flow of meaning. Carl Jung defined synchronicity as meaningful coincidence, when things that seem unrelated align perfectly with your inner state. When a woman reaches harmony between consciousness and the unconscious, between her essence and her life, she realizes nothing is just coincidence. Every event, person, and sign appears as language from the universe, arriving at the exact moment, matching her current frequency. She no longer tries to control everything. She doesn't need perfect plans or guaranteed outcomes. Instead, she lives with quiet trust that everything unfolds as it must. When a door closes, she doesn't panic. She asks which part of her has completed its purpose. When a relationship ends, she doesn't ask why, but listens, what is being released? As Jung said, synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. And the woman with high spiritual energy has opened those eyes. One viewer once shared a story that changed her entire view of life. After losing both her relationship and job, she fell into exhaustion. Instead of rushing to find new work, she spent weeks meditating, journaling, and walking every morning. One day, sitting in a cafe, she wrote, "I am ready to begin a new journey, trusting that I am being guided." At that very moment, the cafe owner, a stranger, approached and said, "My company is looking for a product photographer. Are you interested?" She smiled, not at the coincidence, but at the universe's reply. That's how synchronicity works, not as magic from outside, but as a reflection of your inner world. When your energy stabilizes, life stops being a collection of accidents. It becomes a mirror of your soul. This woman no longer struggles to achieve. She doesn't beg the universe to bless her because she understands she is part of the universe. Instead of asking, "How do I make this happen?" she asks, "What frequency am I in?" When her heart is calm, things align. When her energy is clear, doors open. When she moves in rhythm, the world responds in melody. If I had to name one living example, it would be Jane Goodall. She wasn't just a primatologist, she embodied a soul in synchrony with life. When she left England for the Gombe forest, she had no degree, no fame, no plan, but she followed an inner calling and trusted it. In 1960, when she saw chimpanzees using tools, something science believed only humans could do, she wrote, "Something inside me whispered, the world has just changed." From that moment, her life ceased to be research. It became communion with nature. She didn't choose success. Success found her. perhaps that wasn't a coincidence. It's a sign you're moving closer to the synchronized state. The woman with high spiritual energy sees every moment as a conversation between her and the universe. A falling leaf, a random sentence, a dream. All hold meaning if she's still enough to listen. She no longer asks, "What does this mean?" She feels the meaning. Because when soul and life intertwine, words become unnecessary. At the deepest level, she no longer stands apart from the flow of existence. She is the flow, where everything carries its sacred order. She doesn't chase miracles, she is the miracle. Every event, a meeting, a loss, or a silence, is part of the symphony her soul plays with the universe. As Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." The woman with high spiritual energy has awakened, and as she lives, the world awakens with her. A spiritually awakened woman is not one who escapes the world, but one who knows how to live within it without losing her soul. After everything, after she has felt, suffered, rested, and embodied presence, she walks with a different light. Not dazzling, but steady. She doesn't try to awaken others, but her very existence makes others want to be more authentic, calmer, and kinder. Her power lies not in doing much, but in the quality of her being. Every step, every gaze, every breath becomes a silent prayer for the world. She doesn't say, "I live a spiritual life," because her life itself has become a sacred ritual, where every event carries meaning, every encounter holds a message, and every silence contains wisdom. And perhaps that is the deepest mark of a high-frequency soul, when she no longer tries to become light, because she already is light. If this video resonated with you, share it with other souls walking the path of awakening, and subscribe to the channel to explore deeper into the mysteries of energy, spirituality, and inner transformation. Because sometimes it only takes one moment of realization for your soul to begin to awaken. You are learning to love yourself. You slow down, listen to your emotions, set healthy boundaries, and let go of toxic things. You heal, little by little. But strangely, love still doesn't come. It's not because you're unworthy. It's not because you're not okay enough. Sometimes, the very defense mechanisms you build during your healing journey become invisible barriers that keep love from entering. Love, in Jung's view, is not merely a connection between two people. It is a journey of projecting your unconscious onto another, a growth. Leave a comment saying, "I accept the challenge," or simply, "Challenge accepted," to join us in starting the first part of today's video. Number 1. You equate independence with needing no one. We've all walked through emotional wounds, quietly smoldering, leaving deep aftershocks in our hearts. Some have loved so fiercely they lost themselves, only to be left behind as if they were never worthy of love. Some have begged for genuine presence, only to receive emptiness. And others, having tasted every flavor of dependency, now rely solely on themselves to keep going. From those experiences, we learn to stand up, to be independent, to live without needing anyone else to feel valuable. But quietly, almost imperceptibly, another belief takes root, that if you're strong enough, independent enough, peaceful enough, you no longer need love. That love is a luxury for the weak-hearted. And so you begin to craft an image of a resilient self, a silent fortress in the world where everything is controlled, where no one can hurt you again. On the surface, you live as someone who has transcended emotional needs. You have your career, your journey, your passions, coming and going on your own, healing on your own. But deep inside, a part of you still longs to be seen, to be understood, to be loved. Carl Jung called this unconscious identification with an archetype, when you're swept away by a psychological image without realizing it. In this case, you're living as the archetype of the lone warrior, one who believes closeness is dangerous, that needing others less makes you stronger. The problem is, when you conflate independence with isolation, you don't just protect yourself from pain, you lock yourself away from love. Like an oasis in the desert, you need no one, but no one can find you either. No one sees the beauty within you because you've shrouded it in a mist called, "I'm fine." This is where the difference between self-reliance and avoiding connection becomes clear. Self-reliance is standing firm, taking care of yourself without losing the need for connection. Avoiding connection is convincing yourself you don't need love, don't need anyone, because unconsciously, you believe attachment always leads to pain. From a psychological perspective, this reflects an avoidant attachment style, often formed in childhood when emotions were dismissed, ignored, or seen as a burden. That child grows up learning to need no one, but the longing to be loved never disappears. It's just hidden, deeply and carefully. In reality, you may be on a solid healing journey. You know how to listen to yourself, to meditate, to stop chasing others to fill your voids. But sometimes, in that journey to become whole, you equate maturity with no longer needing love. You think that when you're stable or complete, love will naturally come. But Jung warned, the mature ego can become a prison, if not illuminated by the unconscious. Jung's words ring especially true here. Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. When you crave control over everything, your emotions, relationships, and personal space, you prioritize power over love. And love cannot grow in that soil. It thrives only in softness, however fragile, where you dare to let yourself need others without seeing it as weakness. I have a friend, successful, insightful, the epitome of modern independence, her career, financial stability, psychological awareness, and self-care. But in romantic relationships, she's always the one to retreat first. When someone wants to get close, she feels suffocated, restless. When someone is sincere, they question their motives. Behind her strength lies a deep memory. Her parents divorced when she was young. She saw her mother bear everything without complaint. She learned that women don't need anyone to live well. And she lived exactly that way until she began to feel lonely in the world she had built. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And perhaps one of the hardest parts to accept is that we still need to love and be loved, even when we've learned to love ourselves. In the journey of individuation, the process Jung saw as the ultimate purpose of inner life, you don't become a better person by society's standards. You become your true self, multifaceted, complex, full of contradictions, and brimming with potential to love and be loved. This means you don't abandon emotional needs to prove maturity. Instead, you learn to acknowledge them as a natural part of your being without denying, idealizing, or clinging to them. Emotions don't weaken you. How you handle them determines your strength or weakness. When you dare to say, "I want to be loved," without feeling deficient, small, or unworthy, you're on the path of individuation. In emotional maturity, you don't need love to survive, but you don't pretend you don't need it either. You hold fast to your core self, but don't seal your heart shut. You don't throw yourself at others to fill voids, nor do you push them away out of fear of pain. This is the beautiful paradox of true maturity. You're strong enough to stand alone, but brave enough to lean on someone without dependency. It's your ability to be vulnerable, to feel deeply without losing yourself. That marks the deepest sign of a grounded self. And that's where love can take root. It sounds conscious, but it may be the unconscious pulling the strings. After pain, your heart becomes vigilant. It sets conditions for love. Only when I'm truly okay, fully whole, no longer vulnerable, then I'll open up. But that's the paradox. Love doesn't demand perfection to be yours. Love, as Jung implied, is a realm where both shadow and light must be brought in. where no part of you is excluded from the dance. Psychologically, this is the nervous system's freeze response, not fleeing or fighting, but withdrawing to stay safe. It's not loud like panic or dramatic like pursuit, but dangerous because it makes you think you're okay. You think you're at peace when you're emotionally numb. Your heart grows indifferent, not because it's healed, but because it fears that feeling again will awaken old storms. We often think we must be fully stable, clean, before daring to love again. Like Mary in the Bible, a woman with a wounded past, scorned, labeled, yet the first to witness the resurrection. Not because she became perfect, but because she dared to show up with all her rawness, incompleteness, and longing to be touched. What made her a witness to sacred love wasn't absolute virtue, but the courage not to hide herself. And in everyday love, it's the same. You don't need to be stable to love. You just need to dare to be present, even when weary, even when still learning to heal. Because the truth is, none of us is ever enough. We are souls reflecting each other, illuminating the parts we lack. And love, when it comes at the right time, doesn't disrupt healing. It makes it more real. Have you ever been in such a peaceful place, so safe you no longer dared step out? If so, share your thoughts below. Your courage might be a light for someone lost in their darkness. Jung believed that within each of us is a part that wants to withdraw from the world, to commune with the unconscious. But if you linger too long in that darkness, the light outside becomes blinding, terrifying, and you'll choose to stay in the cave, even when your heart longs to step out. Healing is vital, but beware when it becomes an excuse to delay truly living. Distinguish chosen solitude for growth from isolation, disguised in spiritual language. Because silence isn't always stillness. Sometimes it's frozen panic. Sometimes it's exhaustion, unsure of where to restart. And sometimes it's a heart too weary to dare desire again. There's a metaphor I love, the cocoon of a chrysalis. To become a butterfly, the caterpillar needs a phase of retreat, restructuring its entire form. But if it doesn't break the cocoon, it dies in its transformation. You weren't born to stay in the cocoon forever. You were born to take flight. So if you find yourself in a comfort zone so cozy you no longer dare open your heart or long for love, you may not be healing. You may be hiding. And love doesn't find closed spaces. It seeks places still trembling, still vulnerable, yet daring to open. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Remember, loving while still healing isn't a mistake. It's part of the healing itself. We learn most about ourselves not in silent solitude, but in seeing our reflection in another's eyes. No one heals in isolation. We need to show up for each other to see ourselves more fully. And if you keep waiting to be okay before loving, you'll miss the miraculous transformation love brings. Yet, on this journey, there's a turn easily overlooked. When you think you're evolving, but you're trapped in an idealized image. A role that shines with light, but can become a golden cage, where you forget that you too need to be touched. Number 3, you're trapped in the archetype of the healer. You've overcome pain. You've faced childhood wounds, the cuts from past relationships, the times you lost yourself in the hunger to be loved. You've learned to stay with yourself, to listen, to embrace your inner fragments. Now, You're no longer dependent on others' emotions, no longer caught in obsessive spirals, no longer letting love define your worth. You've walked a long road, and now you've become someone who can listen to others' pain, gently illuminating their path with your own experiences. But there's something few people tell you. The healer can also become trapped in the very role they once took pride in. They no longer fall into chaotic love, but they're drawn to relationships where they are the one helping the other become better, where they don't allow themselves to be vulnerable, to need someone to lift them, to admit that they too are tired, lonely, and crave a shoulder to lean on without having to constantly strive. This is the trap of the healer archetype, a radiant image, but deeply dangerous if identified with too strongly. Jung called this inflation of the archetype, when you don't just carry the archetype When the shadow hides under light, it's even harder to detect. Jung's saying, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell," is one of the most powerful images of the inner journey. You cannot reach the heaven of connection, love, or true presence if you don't dare look at the roots you're anchored to. The unsoothed wounds, the fear of abandonment, the sense of unworthiness, the unbeautiful desires judged by the moral standards you were taught. And it's precisely there where true love begins. Not when you're clean, radiant, or all-powerful, but when you can step out to lift someone and turn inward to lift yourself. Love is meeting each other as two people living, unfinished, and full of contradictions. Look back. Are you drawn to people who always need help? Do you feel your worth only when you're the understanding one, the guide, the stronger one? Do you feel uneasy when someone wants to help you, care for you, or truly see you? If the answer is yes, you may be trapped in the healer's cloak you once proudly wore. The truth is, you don't need to stop healing. You need to return to being human. A human who can err, be weak, be sad, be angry, and need someone to love them, not because they're capable, not because they heal others, but simply because they are themselves, incomplete, unfinished, but real. You have the right to let go of that role. You have the right to not always be okay, and you deserve a love that doesn't demand you be an emotional expert, that doesn't love you for being healed, but for daring to show up authentically. Carl Jung believed the path to wholeness doesn't pass through perfection, but through reconciling the opposites within us, light and shadow, the strong one and the child needing a hug. As long as you deny your instinctual need to be loved, you stand outside the true game of love. And if you've been a healer for others, walking through layers of your inner journey, perhaps the next thing to learn is to let others heal you with their genuine presence. However, to truly let others touch you, you need more than understanding. You need the courage to look at the parts you've left in the dark, because often, what makes you lonely isn't a lack of love, but a refusal to face the parts of yourself you've never wanted to confront. Before moving on, take a quiet moment. Breathe slowly. At this point, do you recognize where you are in this journey? Which part makes you want to pause and reflect longer? Share with us. We're here to listen to your heartfelt thoughts. Number 4, you haven't faced your shadow. You think you're ready for love. You know how to set boundaries, no longer easily sacrificing yourself to stay in a half-hearted relationship. You know how to read people, avoid old patterns of hurt, spot red flags and recognize lessons. You choose carefully, live consciously, set clear principles, and believe, this time, love will be right. But the more you mature, the lonelier you become. The more you understand yourself, the harder it is to feel moved. People who once made your heart race now spark only suspicion. Conversations that once made you feel alive now feel like you're censoring. You no longer fall into old traps, but you also no longer feel you truly connect with anyone. Perhaps the issue isn't that you're not ready to love, but that you're avoiding touching yourself. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the rejected, suppressed, hidden part of your being, buried under the mask of the good person, the strong one, the healed one. The shadow isn't evil. It's the very human aspects you don't want to admit. Petty jealousy, the desire for control, the fear of abandonment, the longing to be noticed, to be cared for, to be the most important. It's the cry of the child who wasn't held, the impulsiveness once criticized, the anger labeled ugly and pushed to the depths of your soul. You think you've tucked it away neatly, but the shadow doesn't vanish just because you ignore it. It retreats into the depths of the unconscious, subtly steering what you call reason. It's behind the times you think you're too picky when no one seems good enough. It hides in the scrutinizing gaze, the doubt when someone loves you sincerely. It's the invisible hand making you step back whenever someone gets close. You call it intuition, but sometimes it's just a reflex of fearing to be seen too clearly. You say you can't stand childish people, but you're rejecting the child within you, the vulnerable, loving, crying child hurt for needing others too much. You build an ideal image. You're mature, calm, unswayed by emotions. But deep down is the fear of losing control, of emotions spilling over, making you unlovable, or too complicated. You don't love with a beating heart. You love through a system of filters. According to Jung, this is the mechanism of projection. What you reject in yourself, you'll hate, avoid, or demand. Generational trauma, but never truly sit with your emotions without judgment. Perhaps what's blocking your love isn't a lack of the right person, but a lack of courage to face the unloved parts of you. Jung wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. You don't need to be whole to love, but you need to be honest with your whole parts. You don't need to be better to be loved, but you need to see more clearly what you're hiding. Because if you don't, you'll choose love by elimination rather than with an open heart. You'll love it conditionally and call it modern standards. You'll feel a connection, but believe it's wise selectivity. You'll judge others for what you can't accept in yourself. And then love, the space meant for living authentically, becomes a stage for continuing your performance. You can't invite love into your home when parts of your room are still locked. You don't need to fling everything open in a day. But you need the first step. Gently knock on the dark door within and listen to what it says. Because only when you embrace your shadow can you truly love and be loved. But there's one thing I must warn you about. Beneath all these defense mechanisms lies a subtler layer, an outdated role you donned early on and lived with so long you mistook it for me. Number 5. You're living by an outdated archetype. We grow up not only with parents and schools, but also are shaped by invisible archetypes, social and psychological images we identify with. Some grow up with the image of a woman who must be nurturing, gentle, and always sacrificing. Others pursue the archetype of the independent warrior woman, strong, self-reliant, needing no one. Some align with the rational man, reserved, emotionally restrained, always in control. These archetypes once helped us survive, providing a sense of safety in certain phases of life. But when they begin to limit your ability to truly connect with others, it's time to pause and ask, who am I living as? And is that person still truly me? In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, archetypes are ancient, collective patterns embedded in humanity's shared unconscious. Each of us carries multiple archetypes: the mother, the rebel, the lover, the child, the wise sage, the warrior, the healer. When one archetype dominates or monopolizes, it creates psychological imbalance, causing us to repeat a role that no longer fits. A woman living by the independent warrior archetype may have needed it in the past. Perhaps she had to navigate family crises alone, shoulder responsibilities, or learn to protect herself in an untrustworthy world. But when love knocks, that archetype still prevails. She needs no help, resists being bound, and conceals her true emotions. As a result, others can't get close. Not because she lacks a heart, but because she lacks the language to express that love. Jung called this the phenomenon of being trapped in an inner role, when identity becomes fixed around a single trait or role, stifling the flexibility to grow with life's experiences. Researchers of the self describe this as identity foreclosure, locking into an identity too early, preventing exploration of other facets of the self. You may see this in yourself. You're skilled at staying calm, but don't know how to show vulnerability. You care for others effortlessly, but struggle to accept care in return. You're the strong one in your friend's eyes, but feel lost when you need someone to see your weariness. The archetype you're living by is outdated. It once protected you, but now it isolates you. Jung called the process of moving beyond an archetype's control individuation, the path to becoming your whole self, not reduced to one role, one mask, one facet. It's when you're not just the strong one, but also the vulnerable one. Not just the rational one, but also the emotional one. Not just the giver, but also able to receive without shame. A relatable modern example. Some women, intelligent, independent, excellent at self-care, feel they don't attract love. Not because there's something wrong with them, but because they've unconsciously suppressed the lover archetype, the feminine, alluring, emotional, vibrant part. They fear being labeled weak, fragile, or dependent, so that part is buried like a flower blooming in darkness, beautiful but unseen. When love arrives, it no longer recognizes them, because love doesn't just seek the capable, rational, or self-sufficient. It seeks the vibrant, those who smile without reason, cry when moved, surge like an unexpected summer rain. Feminine energy isn't just soft candlelight or sweet whispers. It's also a fire blazing in a deep forest, a wolf's howl calling to the moon, a primal instinct that transcends words and speaks through heartbeats. It's an energy that's restless, untamed, not always pretty. It's instinctual movement, sometimes gentle like a you no longer hide. The greatest outdatedness isn't in appearance or age. It's in repeating a worn-out energy out of fear that being different means you'll no longer be loved. But the opposite is true. The more your feminine energy transforms, the more magnetic it becomes. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. If these words make you pause to breathe a little deeper, hit like to let me know you're still listening. And if you want to continue exploring yourself through Jung's light and the darkness of your heart, don't forget to subscribe so we don't lose each other in this stream of the unconscious. Love doesn't demand you approach it in a perfect form. It doesn't need you to be pure light, unscarred, unshaken. It only needs you to keep breathing, keep trusting, keep being honest with the corners you've secretly avoided. Love doesn't enter through the door of, "I'm okay now." It finds its way through the cracks, where you sit alone at night and admit, "I still long to be seen, even if it makes me fragile." Because the heart, like a living house, doesn't just need renovations to welcome guests. It needs to come alive. It needs the sound of footsteps crossing the threshold, the clatter of an impromptu dinner, days filled with dialogue and silent afternoons with nothing to say, the messiness, the clumsiness, the unpredictability. Because to love is to let someone touch the imperfect parts of us and stay. And so do you. You don't need to wait until you're a complete woman to open the door. You just need to start moving,